All right, we are actually live now. Look at that. 4 o'clock on the dot. We're on time. This has got to be a world's first for us. For our streams. First time ever. Exact to the minute. Look at that.
Yeah, usually my fault. A lot of the time I am late, so I will take a bit of the blame.
No worries. I am also notorious for trying to do like half an hour or an hour's worth of setup and prep in the last 15 minutes. And today it worked. It worked just fine. So we're getting away with it. So we'll try it again next time. But first things first, just want to say hello to everyone in the chat joining us for the stream. If you are here and live with us, please let us know if there's any sound issues, technical issues, and we'll try to get those sorted out because live stuff is fun. But we think music should be a good level. Mine and Ridge mics both sounded good on our ends, so fingers crossed. It all sounds good to you guys.
I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah. But without further ado, you guys probably are not surprised to find out that we are going to be talking about LVO tonight, or this afternoon, early evening. We had Carl on. Carl and I chatted about his experience. Obviously, I wasn't there, which I'm still sad about, but excited, Ridge, to hear more. Actually, we have barely talked about it, so I know the gist, the overall of results in that, but none of the details. And there's been a few people saying that you might be a little frosty about some elements of the event.
A certain faction that was just our latest premium battle report. Yeah. So we'll definitely get into that. But yeah, right away, just to start, there was just thank you to everyone that approached me, came up, and Jordan, you wouldn't believe how many people, I know I briefly talked to you about it, but just said they love the channel, and everyone was like, where's Jordan? Where's Jordan? I felt like I was getting asked that it was funny, but just big love to just everyone, for the support and everything. It was awesome just meeting everyone, but yeah.
I again was so sad I wasn't there. I told Cass it just was the right decision for our family. But I told Cass, I feel like I'm letting so many people down. I wanted to go. I want so many people I was excited to meet or see again and hang out with. So unfortunate that didn't work out, but we are obviously going to be doing lots more events. So hopefully we'll see you guys around at different ones, both in Canada primarily, but also the US. And we'll be going over to Worlds in a couple months.
Yeah, super jacked for that. I know, talking to Carl too, we're going to hit a lot of events this year. So mainly the bigger ones in the States, but now we're starting to get a few more GTs up here with some Americans and other people coming up. So it should be a blast. It's just great to be able to have more events.
There'll be at least, now last year Clash was still AOS 2, so it didn't really count. But this year we'll have at least 4 GTs off the top of my head that I can think of in Canada. In the western side of Canada, Ontario, Quebec. So fingers crossed that hopefully we get a couple more as well.
Yeah, that one's looking huge too. Grand Clash, what's it up to 130 or something?
Yeah, it's gonna be big, so it'll be exciting.
Pumped.
Yeah, it was a blast last year. It started off my 3 or 4 GT streak of third places every event.
Not salty about it at all, but yeah.
I mean, it's hard to be mad. It's a podium spot, but you know what I mean? You still want that first every time, or at least one of those. But hey,
I can agree there.
Yeah. But I guess let's jump into things. Ridge, why don't you start off by talking to us about your Seraphon list? It was actually, I know, an interesting decision for you. Which list you took?
Well, you know more than anyone. So as you can all imagine, Jordan and I talk a lot about what we're going to play and what we're going to run, and I was so torn between Thunder Lizards just because it's just so good into the meta right now. There's so many Stormcasts. There's going to be so many Iron Jaws. All of these big lists are going to be there. So I really, really wanted to run Thunder Lizards, and I think I mentioned it in a few other different videos that I'm just so much more comfortable with the Draktail Sally list that I took to Du Bois. Very similar. So I ran 6 Sallies and just allied 2 Dragons in. They went up 40 points each, so my list went up quite a bit, but Ally and the Dragons dropped the Basti. So it's still very, very good into a lot of the armies that were going to be there. So I was a little bit more scared if I brought Thunder Lizards, for the Dock matchups or the Sentinel matchups, or but there weren't rarely any of those. So
yeah, that was a big thing I remember talking about. Is like I was like, oh, there's gonna be lots of Lumineth, there's gonna be lots of Dock. Yeah, I underestimated in terms of meta predictions. I definitely expected more of those armies.
Yeah, and just playing you, I know with the Judicators, I was like, I think a lot of people are going to jump onto that with all the Thunder Lizards and just it being more wounds and everything, but you were the only one that was and dropped. So,
yeah,
my first instincts and what I wanted to do the whole time was I should have played Thunder Lizards. It just
really?
would have been... I think so. I still think so, yeah. Just because I have played some reps with them and, you know what I mean, I just think into that meta, it would have done a lot better. I can't say, I did very well with my Dractail, but I'm just, like I said, I'm much more used to running those lists and having summoning and having teleporting. So the battle plans were still pretty good for Thunder Lizards because a lot of them were quite
very
short.
central.
Yeah, except for top 8, which I honestly didn't even think about when I was building my list for this, because if Tooth and Nail would have came down, I would have been in trouble with my Salamanders not being able to deep strike, right? If I made top 8. So I didn't even think about that. Like I said earlier, I just wanted to have a good time. And so I wanted to run something that was familiar, which I did. And I can't complain with, the results. So yeah, it was just great. Yeah. And
actually worth noting, when you were deciding between the two lists, you actually tested them both, I think the same day against Oliver and I. And we actually filmed both those games. They're both on the channel now.
Yeah.
But you played this actual list, so on the channel against Stormcast?
It was against Oliver's actual Dock, and then I played this list was the banger that we played. They were both premium.
Yeah, you played the Thunder Lizards, against Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so against Snakes, that was kind of I wanted to play it against Oliver because Snakes are 1 damage. So I was like,
it's not a great, not a great matchup. Exactly. So.
No, which I think in hindsight, like I said in the bat rep, and I just got way too aggressive, and I guess everyone, well, not everyone might be premium members, so I don't want to ruin anything, but yeah. Good
shout. If you aren't, you can go check out both those games. See Ridge's, 4-1. You went 4-1 at LVO. Not to spoil it, if anyone didn't already know. A battle tactic away from potentially making top 8. And
202.
2.
Yeah, so I ended up dropping 2. I heard Carl said that too, but so you needed to go perfect. So the 2 that made it in didn't drop any.
Yeah.
So even if you dropped 1, which I'll explain what happened, both of mine were probably I didn't need to drop them, so I probably could have, but yeah, it's that many people you can't drop tactics or
in that situation, just so many players that there's so many people tied. But yeah, if you do want to catch those matches, go watch. You can join the premium membership. Again, best way to support the channel. Thank you to everyone who does that. But anyways, I guess do you want to jump in to your round 1?
Yeah, for sure. So round 1, I played. His name is Dustin. So it was a non-techless Lumineth. So I've played a lot of the. You're gonna see a lot of this times it's against Jordan because a lot of these armies I've played a lot.
It's funny. So sorry to jump in. I'll let you talk. But throughout I was watching every game, seeing what you guys were matched up against, and there was with you and Carl, I'm like, oh, I play this army all the time against them. They'll be well practiced against it. So I was excited when I saw those matchups.
Yeah. So it was. He still had 30 Sentinels, I think 30 Wardens. It was a Zytrek build without Techless, and it did have Severith. So stuff I've played. Don't need to go too far into it, but the moral of the story, what happened was that it was first blood, so you're pretty far back in your deployment. So I'm in this situation, if I'm able to give away first, it's amazing. But in this situation, the priority didn't matter just because my opponent was very defensive. And we talked about it immediately after. He asked, what could he have kind of done a little bit better? He just didn't kind of move up. He moved Severith up and did the shenanigans, but just played way too defensive and castly. So I just scored the primaries turn 2, 3, 4, and then 5. But you know what I mean. A great opponent to play. We had a good time. I couldn't kill Severith. I shot him with 4 salamanders, didn't kill him, left him on 2 wounds. He healed him, did more shenanigans. It was just that fox is so annoying. And then so I ended up dropping a tactic in this game, which was just incredible. So I turned 4, I think, or something. I teleported 2 salamanders. Well, gave him +1 to hit, teleported them. took Slay the Warlord because I was just thinking that was one that I could definitely get this turn, and then I could save another one for turn 5. The Cathlar was in the Luminar.
Yeah.
So even then, -1 to hit, I'm +1 to hit, so it's back to 3s. You know what I mean? It's just a couple 6s. She only has 5 wounds, so it's like I can definitely easily do this. And if not, I have the +1 constellation for +1 to charge. So I fully shot into her. I think I put like no mortals and put like one or two through. So I did like three damage or something. So I was just like, oh wow, that like whatever. Rolled the 9 or the 10, so got into combat as well with her. And same thing, like biffed both of those rolls. So I left, and I think I failed comment as well. Like just so many interactions where I just needed that just to get the tactic. Yeah. So I left her on 1 wound, and so I failed. That was my one tactic I failed in the game. But yeah, other than that, it was a good game. And like I said, just he didn't move up. Just kind of played too defensive.
Yeah. Was there any other tactic you could have done and still kept one for round 5, or that was the only option?
No, or I definitely would have. I think there might have been a broken ranks or something on 10 wardens, or I don't know. I just know in my head I was like, this is one that I don't normally like doing because I never take chances. You know me, I never take chances. I'm going with the one that I know I'm gonna get. But yeah, in that situation, I was just like, it was just. In game 1, I wasn't really thinking too much. I was like, I drop a tactic. It does suck, but it really starts to dawn on you once you get to game 3 and 4, and you're like, wow, no one's dropping tactics.
And if you don't drop a game, dropping tactics isn't a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the end of the world, until you're getting down to tiebreakers.
Exactly. So yeah. Do I feel like I would make top 8 if I ran 12 Beasts of Nurgle? No, I don't think I would. So yeah, but I can't complain, right? It was a good game, good opponent. So it was feeling good. Won my first game. And then my second game, I got paired into a guy named Jarrett. So he was running an actually very interesting list. So he was running a Fangs of Sotek list. That's all I could see. So when I saw it, there were 2 30 blocks of Skinks, Croak, 5 guard with 2 dragons allied. So I really liked the list I know it like the back of my hand, like that's what I've played competitively forever. So I had an idea of what he was going to do. So I knew I was going to give him first if I can keep my Slan alive. So you're going to hear that the moral of my list is it's 2-drop. I'm often able to give away first, which any of these top lists are. Yeah. And if I am able to give away first, I just need to keep my Slan alive, which I have 2 5s of Source Guard, so 20 wounds, plus usually garrison, so -1 to hit. Can do best day ever, can do all defense, and can do +1 from the garrison. So often I am +3 save, -2 to hit from La Couture and the garrison. So there's a lot of people that go for the Slan. It's like a trap. So I use that as bait a lot. Like I'll leave it open for them to kind of come into me because people just think they have the output to deal with it until they start rolling, and then they're like, oh shit, like I'm not gonna kill this Slan, and now, so that's exactly what happened. So I saw him deploy. I placed my temple a little bit back, but not like too far back. I knew the dragons were going to be able to get into me if he cleared my 10 skinks, so I had a little 10 skink screen out front, just in case he didn't clear the screen, then the dragons wouldn't be able to attack me too much. But yeah, so I gave him first. He hero phase move, pulled the dragons in, cleared my 10 skink screen, shot fully into the temple with the skinks, but again, I'm +3 save, like so I was just 3 ups with 2 up pass off. So nothing died. Even the dragons got into me, and this Slan survived, I think, on 4 wounds, and a lot of the guard died, which is what happens.
Yeah.
So then in my turn, I just dropped all my salamanders down, nuked the 130 block of skinks, just left the dragons alone, and nuked. I think I took quite a bit out of the other 30 block, and then we were rolling priority. I was still in a good spot that if he won priority, I was on the other side of my temple, like the garrison, with my Slan screened out. But he would, if he did win priority, he would have been in a good position. So, but I won turn 2 priority. So from there, we pretty much called it after my turn. So I was killing both of the skink blocks. Fully 6 salamanders still alive. Both my dragons were up now. Killed his Realm Shaper with his skink priest on his point. And this is a list like you see Gavin's Living City list. Like a lot of these ones that if you give away first, which you're often going to do, and you get the double, it's
brutal.
You can't take that kind of output, getting a double with that. So that was kind of my game 2.
Nice. So good start.
Yeah, I was feeling good. And then I got obviously all my battle tactics there. And then I guess I'll just roll into game three. Game three was in playing Deepkin. So as soon as I was playing Deepkin, again, I'm sure you saw, like, I've played just so much of your Deepkin. And this was maybe the best opponent I've ever played in my entire life. And so it started out, we kind of like, he's like, hey man, how's it going? And just very positive, very nice. His name's Mackenzie, by the way, Mackenzie Ewing. Some people might know him. So anyways, he knows like Bud and Jacob Barry, like some of the guys from the Tough Crowd group and people that like I chat with all the time. So just right away, it was one of those games where we're just like, shaking hands and like, what's up, man? It was just going so well. So we were playing I knew no matter what, this was going to be just an awesome game. So we were playing the Vice.
And this was the double turtle list, right?
Yeah, so he was running Futhon, he was running the Tidecaster as the general with the Eidolon, 3 Sharks, 2 Turtles, and 3 × 10 Reavers. So yeah, I played a bit of in 2. I played similar lists like that with you, but you've never ran 2 Turtles. I know what the Turtles obviously do, so having Mortals is huge. But so it was weird because we're so far away that I obviously was just going to give him first because he's not going to just come into me knowing that I'm going to have the double. So obviously he's a very smart player. So when I gave him first, he barely moved. He just kind of moved up, put his screens outside so that if I drop down, which is what you do. So it was a perfect move. So then in my turn, I had the decision that either I drop all my shit down, nuke all 3 units of Reavers, hope for the prio, and then I'm in a really good spot. If I don't, I'm in a very bad spot because if I nuke the Reavers, he gets to priority. Those Turtles are killing my Sallies and the Eidolon and the Sharks. So I played conservatively as well. And we kind of waited. So then turn 2, I can't remember if he won prio or if I won prio and gave it to him, or if he won prio and took it. Either way, if he was going first in turn 2. So then he couldn't stay back and he just sit there again and then have that chance in turn 3 for me to do that with the teleport. I'm summoning, you know what I mean, like so many other mechanics. So he kind of came at me central, but he positioned his Reavers very well that and he didn't even ask for outside of 3 so that if your Sallies drop, you're outside of 12 of the Eidolon. He just did it. He just did it. So when I was measuring, I was like, holy shit. So he left 3-inch gap between the front of his Reavers and the Sharks. Or sorry, the Eidolons and the Turtles. So that if I drop down, I nuke the screen with 1 unit of Sallies. My other units can't shoot at them because they'll be outside of 12. So just that right there was like, okay, he's good. He's good. I know I need to maybe get lucky in a few different spots. So what ended up happening is that happened. And then turn 2, I killed quite a bit of stuff, but I didn't kill the 2 Turtles, or I put my dragons up on the far right to threaten his top right point to make him either have to make the decision to either come back and deal with the 2 dragons or come forward at me. So one of the biggest interactions that happened is when I dropped my 2 Sallies over here, I did just nuke the thralls, move the dragons up. He then won prio, so he was going into his top of 3. So I was kind of shitting everything's going to be into me. I know it all attacks first. So he put his Eidolon and 1 Shark over into my corner that had 5 guard, 2 Salamanders, and kind of my other brick. And when he charged in with both of them, he didn't finish off 2 I had the 3+1 save on shoot and charge, and I think Mystic Shield on them, on the Salamanders. So I kind of save stacked the ones that I figured he was going to come in. Yeah, that he was going to come into. So either way, though, I still think Dicey probably kills them, but he rolled a little poorly for that, and then I spiked my saves. So essentially, the 2 Salamanders lived against the Eidolon and the Shark, which I then killed the Shark back. Yeah. So we had just the Eidolon, and I made it an amazing redeploy with the dragons on the other side. So he put both his Turtles outside 3. I rolled a 5 for my redeploy with the dragons back on his point. Because I didn't explain really. So the dragons killed 10 thralls on his side and took his point. So then, he brought both Turtles back to deal with the dragons. So, and I don't know if that, thinking back, I don't know if that is the right play or if he should have maybe come towards me. But I guess you have to deal with the dragons because if he doesn't...
And needs the point back and...
It needs his point, yeah. So a lot of different little altercations. So So yeah, he ended up failing both of his charges. But there were two 8-inch charges. I think he rolled a 6 into like a 5 or a 4 or something, and then the other one might have been a little bit more because I got 5 exactly away from whatever it was. Actually, no, I think they were both 8s. Either way, he didn't get into the dragons with those 2 turtles. So in the bottom of 3, I was able to take off one of the turtles with teleporting a salamander and blah blah, bringing everything into the one turtle. So that was like the hugest point. So once that happened, I can't remember even who won turn 4 prio, but after that happened, he had just like a shark, a tidecaster. I killed the one turtle in the bottom of 3, and then in 4, I don't think I won 4 prio. I can't remember. Maybe I did. But either way, after that, he consolidated his turtle kind of to the middle because Vice, it comes to the middle. Shot and killed a bunch of other random stuff. But then at that point, I summoned one single salamander. I still had, I think, 4 salamanders left. Yeah. So in my turn, because that would have been bottom of 4. So in bottom of 4, I just nuked the last turtle, and then it was game. But yeah, it was a really good game. And Vice is super interesting. It's like one of those battle plans that's...
Now, I don't know if it came up with the turtles in that situation, but one of the awkward things with Deepkin is both the turtles and sharks are not elite or heroes, obviously. So neither of them can use command points on themselves, at least the single sharks. Now you can have a unit leader in 2 sharks or more, but I just ran a bunch of single sharks, and both them and the turtle, it's awkward not being able to use command points on them, like by themselves.
Yeah, you need like an Eidolon or like something nearby. And that's where, the Eidolon is awesome. That's where just +1 to wound. Like there's just so many good synergies.
Such a good ability.
Yeah, Deepkin is very good, and now with the new supplements. But yeah, so anyways, with Mackenzie, it was just hilarious because so when he missed both of those turtle charges, like we went around the table and like hugged each other, and it was like one of those moments where it was like, oh man, it's such a feel bad that shit like that happens. Or when like I nuked his turtle, or like, you know what I mean? It was just such a great game. It's so awesome playing opponents like that and just meeting people that are just so positive, and just, even when you're getting shit on or things happen, you're still having a good game, essentially. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that was the game 3. So after game 3 felt good. It was end of the day. I was 3-0, so I was still in the contention to make top 8. So I was pumped. I just was worried and didn't know about the pairing. So I was just thinking about, what I knew there was a lot of dragons. I know, tons of the players, James O'Brien, Noah, Mergonk, like a lot of these lists and a lot of these players that were still Gavin, there's a really good chance I'm going to get matched up. So, I guess not really good chance because there's so many people at these events.
But there's a lot of them. So it's not unlikely.
Yeah. And a lot of good 3-0s. Dayton was 3-0.
Yep. He beat Levon. That was Levon had gone 4-1 and it made top 8, but his loss was to Dayton. Yeah.
Yeah, man, he was crushing it.
Unfortunate Canadian action.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just roll into game 4 then. So game 4, we were all sitting around, hungover, kind of waiting to see what the pairings were going to be. And then once I saw, that time when everyone's like, oh, I got Deepkin, oh, I got Dragons, oh shit, I got da-da-da. So I saw Ogre Mod Tribes. So I'm thinking in my head, this is pretty good. Ogre Mod Tribes compared to some Dragons with long strikes, blah, blah, all the other things that could happen. But huge shouts to Russ. So my opponent's name was Russ. He was running a Blood Gullet Stonehorn list, which I just played Zach on the with his Stonehorns, and I've played Ogre Mod Tribes a bunch of times. Yeah. So I was less drops. The battle it was shifting objectives, so I was in a good spot. I was feeling great about the matchup. So I guess let's get into the heartbreak, which was my game 4 loss. So I pretty much knew I was giving away the turn almost no matter what, unless he made a crucial mistake with his deployment, which he didn't. He deployed the 2 Stonehorns and the Thunder Tusk behind 3 units of Yetis, which were screened out. So good deployment. And then he had the 3 little dudes from Hrothgorn's Underworlds, which I've never seen before, but you can deploy them other places. So they were kind of just over on the side, and Hrothgorn was deep striking. Nice. So he essentially, I gave him first. He did Ferocious Advance, got his 3 for his monsters, moved up and just kind of stayed same thing, like screened out, knew that I was going to drop down. And then it was going to, be one of those situations with priority being big again. So he did. In my head, I'm like, okay, he does that. I put 10 skinks in the sky with my sallies, so I could, when I drop them down, I'm able to put this 10 out in front and then put the sallies directly behind, so that if he does charge me, I'll get an unleash hell. I'll have skinks that make it so that he can't pile in, blah blah, all that stuff. So that all happened. I nuked all 3 units of Yetis. The dragons went up the right side, killed those 3 little things, 3 little goblins or whatever. So I took that point. I took all 3 points. I even summoned 10 skinks on the left point. So took all the points, killed all the Yetis, went into Prio. So if I would have won Prio right there, again, this list is just so good. So if you're in a position to do that, it's like it would have been over. So he won Prio turn 2. So in that situation, it came down I guess it didn't matter which one was the worth 2. He essentially moved up all of his Stonehorns, and then he has the drop of the red blood or whatever, which I know it's, you pile in 6 if you've charged that turn, or when you activate you can pile in 6 instead of 3. So it was actually amazing for me because he charged both units into the 10 skinks and was hoping to blow them up with the charges, I think, or some other thing, so that he was able to pile in 6 and hit the 1 unit of Sally's. But as he moved outside of 3 with both of them, he moved the 1 within 9 of my right side salamanders. So I redeployed them, rolled a 5. So right away I pulled those salamanders right back. So even if he had a 6-inch pile in, I knew that those 2 were safe, and my 2 in the back left were safe, which was huge for me. So I just, after that happening, I'm like, oh my god, this is a great spot to be in. So then he piles in. There was 1 Yeti. So I killed the 3, and brought the 1. There was 1 of 3 Yetis left from the middle one, which he auto ran and then piled in 6 to try to kill the screen. So he actually, and he did, when he charged, chose to do his Metal Cruncher on the salamanders that were within 3, the one that was like there that I unleashed hell with. Mm-hmm. So I unleashed hell, killed the single. He charged the Yeti so that I would absorb the unleash hell. So yeah, I nuked the single Yeti because it's still worth it. But the Metal Cruncher, he decided to do the D6 mortal wounds into the salamanders, which as soon as he did it, and then after we both talked, and I'm like, you probably should have just made sure you kill that screen with the Metal Cruncher, because if you don't kill them with the Stonehorn, which 100% you should, but if you don't, then it could be trouble. It's still 10 wounds. So he put I think he rolled a 5 or 6 mortal wounds into the sallies, and then when he piled in the Stonehorn, he didn't get his rolls, because I think the horns hit on 4s or something, and you can get it to 3s. So he flubbed his rolls and didn't kill the 10-man screen. So he left 1 skink on 1 skink left, which I was able to position. Obviously, as I was pulling the casualties, I was thinking the whole time, like blocking the amount of his bases to pile in. So it ended up coming down to him not finishing them off, which I left that 1 skink so that even if he did 6-inch pile in, he wasn't able to get into like my Source Guard or anything that were behind there. So after his turn, the other Stonehorn just obliterated the salamanders, obviously, because they're going to do that. So at the end of the turn, I was still in really good shape. So that skink obviously was gone. He was a legend, but he survived. So then in the bottom of 2, I was thinking in my turn, okay, what kind of going through what I need to do here. And this is where the one thing I could have done differently, where I think I would have won the game if I would have done this. I have played Stonehorn so many times, and I understand that they're a 3-up save with a 5-up ward. I know that you can spike the 5-up ward, so this is where I should have targeted the Thunder Tusk. So one mistake that I made was I thought, because I had already done some wounds to the Stonehorn that was kind of right in my face with the salamanders. I think he had 2 wounds taken off or something, so he had like 11 left, whatever. Like with 2 fully buffed salamanders and my Dragon Breath and a possible charge from both sides, I can definitely kill this Stonehorn. And if I can kill this Stonehorn, that's way bigger than killing the Thunder Tusk, because it doesn't do nearly as much damage. So I went for an easy tactic to not anything to do with them. I think I took aggressive expansion or something. So I got my tactic and everything, but the goal of the whole turn was to take down that Stonehorn. So my left ones, I used my Triumph as well. So I had a Triumph for +1 to wound. So they were 8 shots, 2s and 2s. I rolled a couple 1s on the hits, and then I don't think any 6s, or maybe 1 6. And And then I failed a couple of the wound rolls as well. So I put through, I think, like 3 or 4 at -2. He made 1 or 2 of them. So I did like, I think 4 damage or 5 damage with the first brick. Second brick, same thing, put through, like, failed a couple, but did all at attack. So they were 2s and 3s, but still same thing. So they did like same thing, like 4 or 5 damage, something. Obviously I failed both of my dragon breaths, 1 and a 2, didn't do any mortals. So he had like 3 wounds left on the Stonehorn, and I rolled the charge, failed the charge. So I was just like, okay, I can still win turn 3 prio. You know what I mean? This is still not the worst. But after that, I don't know. That was kind of the big turning point where I'm still definitely in the game, but I needed to take down that Stonehorn big time, because if he wins prio now, all 3 of those beasts are going to, you know, come at me.
Cause mayhem.
So exactly. So after that, he lived. I failed the charges. Of course, he wins turn 3 prio again, or not again, but after winning 2, he won 3. So I was just like, oh, this is not good. So he then, instead of putting the Stonehorns into like kind of my main army and the Salamanders and stuff, he just went right at the dragons. So 2 of the Stonehorn and the Thunder Tusk went at the dragons, and he rolled, I think, a 9 and an 11 for his 2 charges with the Thunder Tusk and the Stonehorn, excuse me. And he blew up both of the dragons before even getting into combat. So he rolled, I think, 7 of 9 and 9 of 11 4-ups for the 2 Stonehorn charges. Or did all 3 go in? I can't remember, but essentially the 2 dragons were blown up just from the charges, from the mortals. And then he still had his 3 kind of Stonehorns in the middle on the 2 points. So yeah, that was turn top of 3. So then in my bottom of 3, I still had Sally's alive. Or did he put one of the Stonehorns into the 2 Sallies? Either way, in my bottom of 3, this is where I did pivot, and I summoned a Salamander, juiced up 2 of the other Sallies, and I did go at the Thunder Tusk, which I think because he healed up with the Maw Pot and everything, he heals so much. Like I know you can't leave them on any wounds as well, but it just kind of happened. So anyways, then I killed his Thunder Tusk, got the extra point, and eventually the game came down to, I did finally win prio in turn 4, so I was able to still be in it. And if I was able to kill either another, or actually I killed the Thunder Tusk in turn 4. So bottom of 3, I didn't actually kill any. I killed him in turn 4. So it came down to like turn 4, I was down a little bit, but if I won turn 5 priority, then I still would have been able to kill a Stonehorn, because I had 2 Sallies and a summoned Sally that I could have still kind of been in it, or, you know, came back. But he won turn 5 prio, and it just kind of sealed it, because all the way through this, he had been getting just extra points for getting broken ranks with a Stonehorn. He got extra point for doing the run 3 with the monster. So just so many little things over time. Like he cast Metamorphosis on his Butcher twice and got it through. I'm +2 to Unbind with a reroll. Yeah, with a reroll. So it's like, fuck. Like, and that makes his monsters worth 10, or his Butcher worth 10, because it's ogres. So I know at that one time it got him 2 points because he had 10 over my 9 skinks that were on there. So just a bunch of little things. And yeah, the charges, it was just, oh man. And nice guy. Like it was such a good game, but it was just one of those moments where a couple of those things happen, and I just really thought I was going to be able to. Yeah, so I really thought I was going to be able to take out the Stonehorn. So lesson learned, I guess. Again, playing ogres, like I should have definitely just killed the Thunder Tusk, but
they're it's almost like the Gargant effect, right? Sons of Bahamut, where it's like they're just getting so many easy points that it's like you have to, like, it can't be a 50-50 game or else you lose. And it has to be like a 75-25 game, like, in your favor for you to like actually come out ahead, because they're just racking up so many extra points.
Yes, and even too, I was thinking as well about it, like going a little bit, a little aggressive with the 2 dragons. I learned, like, because at first I used them as pretty much just pinning pieces. I would just juice them up, throw them in, and just put them on a couple save, and just, you know. But I learned, like, just play them a bit more conservatively and keep them around for turn 3, turn 4, that type of thing, and or just make your opponent have to come to them. Might have been the kind of way to play them, or yeah, it was just the target priority, I guess. Just not killing that Stonehorn. I don't know. The only other thing I could have done, like I said, is go for the Thunder Tusk, which I should have done. And both of the dragons probably could have flew that way and fully charged into him. So again, it was one of those moments where it was like, I definitely learned a thing about Stonehorns, but it was just, I can't believe how many mortal wounds he was doing on the charges. It was just absolutely bonkers. And we were obviously laughing about it, and you know, he was a super good sport, and he kept apologizing and saying like, I'm sorry, man, I can't believe I'm getting all these rolls, and I'm like, dude, it's all good. And I'm the one that usually is saying I'm sorry because I'm the Canadian one, but yeah, it was, so end of the day, it was a really fun, good game, and fucking big props to Russ, man. He ended up winning his game 5, and he went 5-0 with Ogres, so it's
solid, very impressive.
Yeah, big time. And as I was playing, I'm like, I have some Ogres at home. As this was happening to me, I'm like, that's always it, right? Like, you're like, I could actually make this work.
That's a cool army. It's
having the reroll charge and, you know, some of those other things could be really good. So, yes, after that, I went swiftly to the bar for a beer and, you know, met up with some people and we're chatting, and then I just, you know, I really wanted to still go 4-1. That was my kind of goal before going. I wanted to make top 8, but I wanted to go 4-1 and sneak out of the top 8 so that I could, you know, enjoy Vegas and do whatever else. But so I did that successfully. So my goal was achieved. But my game 5 was I got paired into Oops All Dragons. So hadn't played that yet. So I had a feeling at some point I was going to get into that. So what was my opponent's name? My opponent's name was Dylan. He was running, it's exactly 2,000 points. The hero, which is 300, and then 5 units of 2 Stormdrake guard.
Yep.
3 lances, 2 swords. I think he had mirror shield on the hero. But this is one thing that I kind of practiced a bit on deployment and just went through some scenarios in my head. He was a 1-drop, so the one mistake I think that he did make, which again, like my game 2, a lot of opponents will make, is they think they can kill this land turn 1. So we were playing the Predator one. So it was Survival of the Fittest. So I deployed my temple quite far back, but I measured to where his dragons kind of could be, and I measured, you know, with a 24-inch move, they would need to make like an 8-inch charge in the closest one. So just because they wouldn't be able to fit many more bases in, the other guys would need probably a 9 or 10 or an 11. So I was like, I would rather risk him taking first and kind of bait my slan in the temple for him to do that, and then me getting either a double back or, you know what I mean, like at least being at the bottom of the turn, which is exactly what happened. So we chatted about it. I still think he probably should have gave me first, because I don't know if my sallies don't roll amazing. I think I killed 2 or 3, maybe 4 dragons, but I doubt like that many. Anyway, he went first, and YOLO'd everything. Like everything, like I took a picture, I remember, and all 11 dragons were like past the half of the board in my deployment. Did all of his breaths, did quite a bit. At the end, he only got 2 of the dragons in. That, I think it was the 8-inch charge with spears, but in the garrison, I'm -1 to hit, so negates that, and then -1 to hit because not for shooting. So he shot all the breaths at the slan as well. I rolled a couple 1s on the pass off, so I think my slan went down to 3 wounds, and I had 1 guard of the 1 unit and 2 of the other unit, but didn't matter because my slan essentially survived. So he went for Slay the Warlord as well, which is another one that I talked about right after. I was like, yeah, I definitely you shouldn't go for that right away. But the people see the slan and they just think like, if I kill him, it's over, which he's right, he does. So anyways, yeah, he did that. And then in my turn 1 back, I just had so I dropped 4 sallies on this side, 2 sallies on the top right side with the 2 dragons. So the 4 of them nuked the 2 spear dragons that were here, and then the 2 dragons along with the other 2 sallies killed the other top 2 dragons. So I killed 4 dragons in my bottom of 1, like with my turn back. Which did feel good, I will say. I haven't played dragons yet. I've played against Stormcast with
like 2 dragons. Or 4.
Yeah, which, you know what I mean. I understand how strong they are, and I've been using 2 dragons in my list for a while. So, so that happened, and then I can't even remember if I won prio because he would have been. So in my turn 2, I popped the Slan out. I put 5 guard around him, or the rest of the remaining guard, and kind of just like screened everything out. So then did I win prio? I can't even remember. If I didn't, he would have been. Yeah, so I did actually, because if I didn't, the other ones would have already been on me. So yeah, then I doubled back. So I went in to kill another bottom 2 or 1.5 dragons, and then my 2 dragons kind of went in and killed one of his and pinned the other ones. Essentially at this point, I took the top right point. I summoned 10 skinks to take the bottom left point. So I was on the outsides. He was kind of in the middle, and then I kind of just pinned his. So at the end, he had, I think, 2 dragons, 1 dragon, and the hero. So yeah, after that he won prio, got into my points, but because at the beginning he was more worried about getting into my castle and like killing me than playing the objectives as much as he should. So I think when we chatted about it after, I just said you could have maybe played a little more conservatively with a few of them, made sure you got the points, made sure I couldn't summon onto your points. Things like that. But what happened at the very end of it, the only kind of thing that was shitty for me is that I didn't bring it down. And this is one thing that I've learned about myself, that I'm playing too safe, I think. I don't, because of so many times I've taken broken ranks or bring it down or kill the warlord, and I've not got it, that I didn't take those early on, and then it bites me in the butt, because in turn 4 I did Savage Spearhead, and turn 5 I already did Aggressive Expansion Conquer. So I did, all I had left was broken ranks, bring it down, slay the warlord, which, because of what happened, like he eventually, the one single dragon was still able to kill my last unit of 2 sallies. The other hero and the other guy came into my like bunker of the other ones. So I dropped my round 5 tactic just because I didn't have it. I had to do slay the warlord or something, but in order to win the game on max points, I needed to play the objectives and stay, like summon 10 skinks and stay far away from him, so that even if he ran on the point, he would only count as 5 and I would have 10, blah, blah, that whole scenario. So I obviously wanted to make sure I got the major instead of getting the turn 5 tactic. So I dropped a tactic in turn 5. So yeah, sorry, I haven't even checked chat.
No, it's all good. We'll do it.
Like storytelling.
Yeah. Well, there's just a couple questions, but it's definitely one of those. I felt that as well with, like, we know we've had a rocky relationship with broken ranks, and then like slay the warlord. It's tough because you don't necessarily want to telegraph what you're doing, especially when it's something big that you're already going to have trouble taking down, so you don't want them to do finest hour. Yeah. But it means you're not getting your tactic at the right, at that time. So it's tough. It's trade-off. But isn't that one of the great things about like the battle tactics in AOS 3? Like,
I do love it, man. That's one of the things I love the most, because so many times I've had one skink survive when my opponent has taken broken ranks, or playing Fangs and you charge into them and they shoot and then retreat and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many good, cool interactions with the battle tactics. So yeah, like I said, I think I just need to visualize which tactics I'm going to do in 4 and 5. So I knew in my head I had Savage Spearhead, but in my head, for some reason, I just wasn't completely thinking about, if I'm going to have a tactic in turn 5. Yeah. I just was thinking kill all the dragons and then worry about that stuff later.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I can't complain. It was awesome. So that was to go 4-1, dropped 2 tactics, which even then in my head, I'm like, I think that's still pretty good over 5 games. I might be, but after looking at all the stats and everything, only like, there was probably 2 or 3 people above me 1 or 2 that dropped 2 tactics. And then there was like probably...
There was like 20, 30 people who went 4-1, like...
Yeah, so then there was like 5 there was like 2 to 4 that had dropped the same, or more than that dropped the same as me. I know Anthony Trentinelli was just above me. We had the same exactly. He had more battle points. So it goes battle tactics, grand strategies, then battle points. So above him, there was like, I think 1 or 2 that had dropped 2. And then where Dayton was in that, like, that had only dropped 1, there was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, there was like 5 or 6 that dropped 1. And then there was like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 that dropped none.
Yeah.
So,
well, I just looked, there are 25 people who went 4-1.
Yeah.
Like, so...
Yeah, Sleepy Gary in the chat, actually, I know he was playing Giants. He was on the bubble, so he ended up...
He came... Yeah.
and I think he must have not, I don't think he dropped any. Did he just have less battle tag? Or I guess Nate and 7th and 8th, I think both had a minor loss. So I think that's what it was that got them. But just wild when there's that many people. It's so important to get I was just thinking back, like, God, I left that Cathlar in 1 wound. Like how does that happen with 2 buff Sallies shooting and then charging? That so like moments like that, it's just like the littlest thing could have possibly made me not go in the top 8, but in this situation I dropped 2. So
it's actually really funny. I didn't realize. So Dylan, who came 9th in LVO, just missed Sleepy Gary on Discord, and that's how we know him.
Best name ever.
Yeah, I was actually I'm playing his list. So we just did a vote for Stormcast. Carl's gonna play Stormcast next weekend. Premium members voted for me to play Sons of Bahamut, and I'm like, I'll just play this list, the top LVO one. So
yeah,
I'm gonna take you out for a spin.
Yeah, I think Basil's in the chat. I think that's Blue Bars. Oh, by the way, if I've commented, I am Carly Stevens in the chat. That is my partner. I'm on her laptop.
But just to answer a couple of questions, Ridge. Jim had a couple. Just asked, would you say you basically only summon Sallies and Skinks?
Yeah, actually, this was the first time ever, I think, in a tournament for sure. I actually summoned 5 guard in that game with the Dragons because he was so aggressive onto my Slan, and I just did not. So I got my grand strategy all 5 games. So it's very integral that my Slan stays alive. In turn 4, I ended up teleporting him literally to the other corner. So yeah, in this situation, actually for the first time I summoned 5 guard, which is 10 points, same as the Salamander. But other than that, no, it's pretty much always you're summoning 10 Skinks to help screen, or you're summoning a Salamander because the output is just crazy.
I would have started to answer that for you, and I would have said I've never seen you summon anything besides Skinks and Sallies.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's just so much better, right? That's what the 6 points is. It's always so tempting, even when it's like you probably should save up 10 to get a Salamander for the output, but it's so tempting because 10 Skinks can just do so much, not damage, but as screens, as little mobile pieces, they move 8. Like they're so so nice to have. And
then next question was, after 5 games in LVO and whatnot, what do you think of the Dragons in Seraphon?
Yeah, I love them. They're so good. They're just a piece that Seraphon doesn't fully have. Like, not even just because they're a monster that has 2 rend, which is ridiculous that we don't have that in this book. Like, how the Carnosaur's jaws are 1 rend is just, I've said it for so long, it's ridiculous. So they're a piece that can do a lot of damage, but the mobility is just nuts. Like the hero phase move and the other move. So I've used them so many times to like pin units that I just don't want to deal with. Give them Mystic Shield. You can even give them Hand of Glory if you've seen in any of I think a couple of the premium bat reps I've used that. So you give them Hand of Glory reroll 1s, which is a friendly unit, or you give them Mystic Shield and you just dart them forward and tie something up. But as well, I've really learned, honestly, I was talking to Gavin actually about it as well. So he runs the 4 in Living City and he plays his very conservatively, the 4 of them, which is so smart because you can still throw them away, especially if they're 2 of them. Like I've had games where I've done that and then they just die immediately, and it's like, okay, now I don't have a monster for any of my tactics to get extra points. I don't have a monster for Monsters Takeover. So I have learned just playing them that you do want to play them a little bit more conservatively, which I did in a couple of my later games, and it paid off. Like kind of keeping them at a range because they're so fast. They can still get wherever you kind of want. Or if you want to save up the hero phase move too, like that's came up huge as well. You know, using the hero phase move to get around Unleash Hell.
Late game or side objectives when bodies start being sparse and.
Yeah, but they're great, man. It's like they're so good in an army that already pretty much has everything. So it's just funny that having a unit in Seraphon that does something that the army doesn't have is just a funny statement. Like,
for sure,
the book is just so,
it does so much.
Good.
I do want to say a big thank you to Zachary. Thank you so much for the tip. He says, enjoying the recaps. Glad you play so well and to see Canada do so well overall. We are super psyched. Obviously, Ridge, Carl, you and Pearl and Lionel were also like going into round 5 with a chance at cracking close to the top 8. Obviously, Levon made it in, which was super awesome to see. Not only made it in, he made it in at 8th. battled from 8th all the way to the finals. Lost in the finals, but still a great showing there. So that was super awesome to see.
That was wild to see, man. Like the 120 zombies is, ugh.
And it just goes to show, like, there aren't, I think, especially at LVO, weren't a ton of armies that, like, were huge, like, tar pits, you know what I mean? Where it's like Sons of Behemoth are a huge tanky army, you know, in many ways. But besides them, there's not a lot out there right now. Like, most of the Nurgle lists you're seeing are like 9 to 12 beasts. So you saw, as soon as he got in the top 8, he faced 2 top Stormcast lists that just didn't have the output to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like,
the Murgonks I know is tough because it has a lot of output, but a lot of charges and mortals, which they don't care about. You need to have fulminate, like exactly we saw when Gavin played it. It was just okay, GG. Fulminators, and you've done that to Levon multiple times in our tournaments. Like they just do so much damage.
And that's why I was like saying I had 4 fulminators in my Stormcast list I was going to take. I am surprised like we didn't see more fulminators in Stormcast lists. Like, there were a couple, but like, you know, obviously Gavin showed why. It's funny actually. Gavin and my lists are very similar. Only mine's the Stormcast version of his city's army. Mm-hmm. Like just with like you look at the breakdown of dragons and obviously the pieces he's using a ton of Stormcast stuff and then shooting to back it up and
yeah. The fulminators they're insane. They're good. Basil's asking dragons over Prime. That's tough. I don't know. Prime's awesome too. He's really good. I find in Thunder Lizards he's great because he gives you the deep strike. But the dragons just being monsters, I think just if you don't have a Basti. So if you have the Basti, then yeah, Prime is a good pick. But
nice for that battle tactic.
Yeah, so good for the battle tactic. But just killing those last couple wardens or with a monster, you know what I mean? Just so many little things that if in your packs or in your tournaments that battle points matter, then it's huge. Yeah. But yeah.
So then Julian asks, do you think if you did run your Thunder Lizards, obviously other things could change, but do you think they would have done better? He asked if you think you would have reached the top 8. Now you were right on the bubble, and so much changes when you change your army, right? That it's impossible to predict.
I think so. I will say this. I think that if I ran Thunder Lizards, I don't think I would have made top 8, not because of the army or that, because of the state I was in. Not that I was that hungover, but the reason I didn't take them is because I'm not as seasoned with them, and not having a teleport and doing a lot more precise measurements, especially just moving 30 skinks and doing all of that. I just know that I would have made some smaller mistakes, and it just wouldn't have. I don't think I would have done as well if I had more reps in. And I say that like I don't know. I still definitely could have. It would have been a lot of matchup dependence. But again, I was just so much more seasoned with this list. Way easier to play. And I knew that I was going to be out late at night and I was going to be not feeling the greatest for my game. So yeah, I think it was a better decision. But I think I'm into the meta. I think that yes, the Thunder Lizard list would have been a better option.
Caleb's got a good question. If you did not play Order, what would you think about the Dragons?
Great question. I would think they're shit and you should not be able to ally them at all. They should only be locked to Stormcast.
Yeah. No, they're good. We'll see obviously in the next month or two whether they fall off, which that's where I suspect we're to see a fall off with them. They're good, but I think 2 to 4 is the right number. I don't think we'll see the Dragon spam sticking around too long.
Yeah, but I have Caleb. I believe this is yours, my friend. You've been looking for this. It's one of the Zeech
agendas.
A 9-fold dismantlement. That is a keepsake I have taken from you from Du Bois. Apparently when I was cleaning up the table, I just picked it up. And I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I'm sure he'll be at LVO or one of these tournaments I see. So when we see each other again, I will give you that back. Yep. It's actually nice because it's 9 inches, then has the 1 at the end. My 9 inches, they don't have
the half.
Inch,
so.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Well, obviously talked about your thoughts on Draco's Tail versus Thunder Lizards, but any, I guess, closing thoughts on your list or the event as a whole?
My list, I like it. I think it's really good at what it does. It's like super much like being 2-drop is huge. I know there was a lot of 1-drop Stormcast, so in those matchups, you know, a lot of the time they're probably going to go first, but if they can't, they just can't kill the Slan. So I really love the list, to be honest. Other than that, I think Fangs is still so good as well. Like I could have done very well with Fangs, I think, into this as well. And Thunder Lizards. Yeah, it's just the book is so good. So yeah, I don't think the list anything else. But the tournament was amazing. Like I've never been to this big of an event before. So Grand Clash was it was like 100 people, but this was nothing like any of that. So just Vegas in general. I don't want to like go off into any Las Vegas stories. I obviously had a great time. So
that's all I've heard is you had a great time.
Yeah, big shouts to all the tough crowd guys, and just hung out with them the whole time. Me and Barl were rooming together, and everyone was so close. So it was going to each other's rooms. We went out for dinner. We went to like a Brazilian steakhouse the one night, which was just so amazing. Yeah. People coming around with all these awesome cuts of meat. The best, I will share one small story. So the best part of the weekend for me was we all went to a spa at the Aria hotel. So Carl and Oliver were going to Cirque du Soleil, and I was in between either doing that or Joe, Basil's in the chat. So Joe, Basil, me, and Noah went to the Aria spa. So I've never been to a spa before, so I didn't know. And Carly's asked me multiple times if I want to go to like a spa, and I've always said like, no, I don't want to do that. So I love.
But with the boys.
Yeah, and she gets angry, but the best thing, man, we went up, got our robes on, and like Noah and I went down, and we were like walking through the middle of the Aria like casino. People are just looking at us. We both got our like just robes on, so we're getting drinks at the bar, having like old fashions and drinking wine, and like it was just so awesome. And then like a couple of the Boston groups came, and they sat and hung out, like Corey and those guys, and you know, then Joe and Basil came from the downstairs, and it's just like those are the moments that are the best. So just having drinks and we were just carrying on, and other people were asking us like, "What are you guys doing here? Like, why are you in your robes?" Blah blah. Just like those types of moments are the reasons why I love like going to events. And ever since I was like 2 or 3 years ago, before I met you, Jordan, before I even played in tournaments, I just used to play Warhammer with my friend Jeremy, and we would just drink. And I would watch the you know, William Sohaly versus Jeremy Vessier in top table for LVO in 2019, like, and just think in my head like, oh my god, I really wish I could go to these and like hang out with all these people. And you see the interviews, and it's like, oh, this would be so cool. And then so actually doing all of that stuff and like hanging out with all of the top 8, like not even just like the people who won, like just, you know, being around that whole atmosphere and going to the casinos and all of that was so awesome and so fun. So that was the kind of highlight. But even getting the massage. So Steve had very strong hands. I will say that. I wrote down to get a female masseuse, and I got a guy named Steve. It was fine. It was all good. And massages are awesome. So I've told Carly, I'm like, okay, I'm pro spas now, baby. So we can go. I'll go to a spa with you.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you'll be down to go next year again. So
big time.
We'll have to go, and I will, baby or not, I'll make it this time.
Yeah, super unfortunate, obviously, with you not being able to make it, but life and family come first, right?
Oh yeah, just bad timing, but that's what happens. But I had a great, it sounds like everyone had a great time down there, so always awesome to hear, and again, great showing by a lot of the Canadian crew, so.
Yeah,
that was exciting to follow and watch. Wish more of the event was streamed. We just need better coverage at these kind of things.
Huge shout to Rob, though. That guy is a legend, dude. Like,
round 8, that game was like, even though it was a phone stream, it was awesome. Like, it was enjoyable. It was unfortunate that it was short, but it was still a great stream.
Yeah, he was to be able to throw that together, like, man, like, you just can't give enough props to him, and just for everything he does for the community, all the new stats he's putting out and everything.
Yeah,
just
like, awesome.
Oh, it's just so great to have someone that, into doing that for everyone. So yeah,
100% agree.
Yep.
But I think we can pretty much wrap things up there. Got obviously a good breakdown of your games and everything at LVO. Next up, I know we have next weekend our first RTT of the year in our local area. We just had a lockdown for like all of January. So we have an RTT this coming up weekend at Grot Gang, taking over Mini Wargaming HQ, but it's Grot Gang running the events.
Josh, yeah.
Yeah, and then in early March, we got the Grot Gang GT, so we're excited for that. Might be sold out of tickets, so we might have a couple left.
Grot's gone wild.
Yeah,
I think it's just sold out now. There was
nice.
one, but all the Americans are
a bunch of the US people are coming up to one of our events for the change, so we'll have to fight them off if we can. But it'll be a blast.
Hospitable Canadians is what we need to be doing, not fight them off.
Yeah. I'll let you be hospitable. I'll fight them off.
Well, you know that I will be.
Yeah. Cool. Well, with that, just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. Hope you enjoyed the talk and whatnot. We want to do more streams and different things like that in the future, so hopefully we can keep doing it and getting better at it and be on time more in the future, like today. But Rich, thank you so much for jumping on. Really appreciate it. It's great to hear more about the weekend, so I look forward to grabbing some more games together soon.
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
All right. Well, have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you soon in another battle report.
See you guys.
Sweet.